Ladies and gentlemen, Kenyans today will enjoy. Watapiga sherehe mbaya sana. President William Samoei Arap Ruto today officially launched the Hustlers Fund. That's one of his pet projects. And for me, the Hustlers Fund is very good. But it's going to fail. And I'm going to explain to you guys in this video why the Hustlers Fund is going to fail. And Moses Kuria is quoted to have said something which caught my attention. This is what Moses Kuria posted. I foresee by next week, everybody in this country will be a hustler business person. Even those who are not doing business, it wasn't their intention. They just didn't have the money. So they'll get the money now. So basically what Moses Kuria is trying to tell everybody who cares here, that everybody in this country will access this money, whether they're in business or whether it's for their business expansion. The main idea why William Ruto came up with the Hustlers Funds was to fund businesses. But what William Ruto has created, in my view, is just another fuliza. And most people are referring to it on Twitter as government fuliza. And something tells me, is it possible that William Ruto is basically just trying to fight President Uhuru Kenyatta and the family who are running the NCBA fuliza? Because for Hustlers Funds to succeed, the first thing they needed to do was to remove everybody from CRB. Which means NCBA of Uhuru Kenyatta had to remove everybody they had blacklisted. That act alone ensured that NCBA lost close to 11.5 billion Kenyan shillings. Hustlers Funds is going to fail. I want you to pay close attention to Bill Okero, one of the top economists in this country, giving his take. Then I'll go straight to why I strongly believe the Hustlers Funds is definitely going to fail.
I look at this thing as nothing more than a state-run fuliza. Nothing, not much different. It's much ado about nothing, really. The government, of course, the cabinet in its memo said it's revolutionary. It's going to do away with all the predatory lending practices and so forth. And there's a lot of lofty statements about it, but it amounts to nothing really as far as I'm concerned. I look at it differently. The reason is because the amount of money that is being given. Don't look at the size of the 50 billion. That's nothing compared to Fuliza alone gave out 585 billion in 2021. So for the government, 50 billion, even if you give each person the maximum of 50,000, how many people will get it? It's only 1 million people will get it. If you look at how many Kenyans are jobless, and we're told this is supposed to help people, who are jobless, people who are down there looking for small and micro enterprises, and so forth. The registered micro and small and medium enterprises alone with that authority are over 7.5 million. Those who are registered with those guys alone. And you create all that expectation that the government is going to give people money to create jobs so that everyone can fend for himself. And then you talk of 50 billion. I think in my view, and then you set up something that will really exclude the entire micro. If we look at the definition of the micro and small and medium enterprises, they're excluded by this fund. Because you're looking at those businesses where the minimum is 500,000, people who do at least turnover 500,000, who employ at least 10 people, and going up to 100 million. If you are doing a 1 million shilling business or 2 million shillings business, and you're told you'll be given, a hustler fund of 10,000 shillings, because majority of people will not get the maximum. I'm sure most people will get 10, 20,000 shillings. 10, 20,000 shillings is not going to be something that you would really feel it's going to change or to expand your business.
Now, something happened to some two banks, I think. You can remind me the bank. There was the Chase Bank, and then the other bank. There was another bank also which went under. When the depositors realized that the bank was going down, everybody rushed to the bank to withdraw their savings. It's a normal occurrence in banks. Shillings. Today, Kenyans were rushing on their mobile phones just by dialing *254# and they managed to access money. 500, there were those who were lucky 10,000, there were those who were lucky 40,000, because the maximum is actually 50,000 Kenyan shillings. So as we speak in this country, today, I know Kenyans are going to really enjoy themselves. And there are three types of people who borrowed money today. There are genuine hustlers who borrowed this money for business. They are normally very few. Then there are those Azimio supporters who are still healing and borrowed this money because they want to see what the government can do to them. The government will do nothing. And then there are also the genuine hustlers who just borrowed this money with the intention of not refunding. So Kenyans have borrowed this money. And the truth is, the government will be allocating 50 billion Kenyan shillings per year towards hustlers funds. But why do I strongly believe it's going to fail? Number one is the repayment period. When you borrow the money, you have 14 days to repay. Let me just make reference so that I don't mislead Kenyans. You have 15 days to repay. But what happens if you default? In case you default, which is 50 days after the date of default, 15 days after the date of default, which means if you default today, then you count 15 days. Then they'll increase that interest, which was 8%. They'll now increase it from that, and they'll start charging you 9.5%. Then they're saying thereafter, persistent default spanning 30 days and over will see a customer lose their existing credit score and their accounts frozen. So it means if you borrowed the money today, like I know most of you guys have borrowed, then you don't pay within 30 days, then your existing credit score will go and your accounts will be frozen, and that's it. And you know, the repayment period, 2 weeks, too short for people who are doing genuine business. Of course, it's very good. My wife does business, and the way they normally operate is that sometimes when they don't have capital, they easily go to Fuliza, then you get the items, then you sell within the period, you refund, and then you remain with your money. That's exactly what William Ruto intended with these hustlers funds. But Kenyans are not understanding what William Ruto really meant. For them, they are just taking the money. Today, everybody took the money. After 14 days, they'll be expected to pay. That period will be the collapse of hustlers funds, unless William Ruto will decide to look at it again and maybe increase the repayment period. Number two is the default. The default rate for this is just going to be too high. It was not well thought out. How are you going to caution the fund from the default? Because you are talking of someone accessing 500 bob to 50,000. And there is no paperwork. You just go either through app or through the USSD card, a code which is *254#. And in case you'll default, you'll be fined 10 million or 5 years in jail. Which means so many Kenyans will be defaulting. And because the government will not be able to take every Kenyan or all Kenyans will default to jail, and most of them will not be paying, most of this will be written off as debts, which takes me, as bad debts. So the default rate will be high, people will not pay, People will not be jailed. Nothing will happen because it's politics, which means default rate, and it takes us to the next reason for failure, which is politics or political aspect of the fund. You know, I'm looking at this fund and I'm wondering whether Ruto just wanted to give Kenyans free money from government. Today, Kenyans have accessed the money. They have the money. Some will do business, some will not. The truth is, over 80% of people who took the money today are not going to venture into any business. Some just wanted to test whether it's working. Some people are just working. They are employed. They just wanted to test. So they have the money. So political aspect. And some people are going to try and wait to see what will really happen to those who will default. If nothing will happen to them, they'll borrow. Some will even grow their credit score. You borrow, you return, you borrow, you return, you borrow, you return, you borrow, you return. After 1 year, your credit score shall have moved from 10,000, say, to 50,000. You borrow and then you disappear. Number 4, which will contribute to the failure, is scandal. I'm seeing a huge scandal coming up. What do I mean? If you look at the youth fund, with all the measures it had, scandal was seen. I'm seeing a situation where people will go for this fund. Once they go for this fund, the government, all the managers of the fund will say, Kenyans have borrowed 50 billion within a year. The default rate is 20 billion. Someone will write off the 20 billion, or someone will just steal 20 billion and write it off as bad debt. This is Kenya. It will happen. Mark this word. It's going to happen. And lastly is the vetting process. You know, you can't just give people money without vetting. Ideally, those in business ought to have registered. What business are you doing? Where are your offices? What's your mobile number? Then once you register, then the money can then be processed. But we are in a country where you give people money for business, they don't even have any idea of the kind of business they can actually do. So let us wait and see how this fund is going to be utilized. Thank you for now.